Greetings and salutations. Derek Schultz, I will open this program for you with an Indiana geography sports trivia question.
Oh, God.
If you were to go from Wabash to DePaul or DePaul to Wabash,
okay,
I believe this is correct. If you were to do that and you were to commute, what state road would you take?
Oh, God. This is a rake straw question. I have no idea. Crawfordsville to Greencastle, I can tell you that, but I no idea.
I'm fairly certain on this. We'll have to should I consult a map to make sure that I'm certain before we actually
why don't you tell me why you're bringing it up?
Well, there's a reason.
To lead off the show.
And when I bring it up, you're going to say to yourself, see, this is the kind of brilliance that I've been working next to for a number of years, and the reason why I've learned so much as a Connecticutian about Indiana is because of the access I have. Did you say Greenfield to?
No, Greencastle.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
You're going to be so thrilled by this, and you're going to say to yourself, this guy, it's unbelievable his level of knowledge about things.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, I can't open the map on my phone because we're in this, concrete jungle.
I mean, we're leading the show here. It's very important in the first, 30 to 60 seconds that you have to capture the listener, capture the viewer. Yes, or else they just tune out immediately.
Okay.
So I wish you didn't lead with that on a national championship
Carry on.
Monday.
I'll try to. I got to turn on my Wi-Fi.
This is episode 231 of Corey and Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us. It's presented by Bailey and Wood Financial Group. 231.
What state road is that connects Greencastle to?
Oh, is it 231?
Crawfordsville.
Okay, great. See, I didn't need the map. I just needed to. There we go. We got that out of the way. We have a new national champion in college basketball. It's actually an old national champion because it's now the third title for the Florida Gators, who knocked off Houston last night in kind of a slugfest. I wouldn't call it a rock fight. To me, a rock fight is Minnesota beating Wisconsin 51-50. That's a rock fight where both teams shoot 30%. The Big Ten championship game.
That's a Van Halen game.
The Big Ten tournament championship game between Michigan and Wisconsin. That was a brutal game. That was a rock fight. Last night wasn't brutal. It was just physical.
I'll tell you what it felt like. There was a stretch. Sorry, I had dental work done yesterday.
Okay.
My mouth is still.
No, you're good. I didn't notice until you said something.
Well, I haven't been drinking. There was a stretch last night, mid second half, that felt like the UConn Butler game.
Yeah.
Where just nobody could hit a shot. Yeah. And it just got, fatigue probably comes into play. The
beginning of the game was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it was hard too. And in that stretch, it felt like Houston was going to take control. But credit Florida, it was the whole tournament of them just kind of finding a way. They were down to UConn. They were really dead to rights to UConn, and they won that game. They were dead to rights against Texas Tech. They won that game. They weren't dead to rights against Houston. A 10, 12-point lead with 14, 15 minutes left is overcomable. That happens all the time in college basketball.
To Crawfordsville, you take 231.
But they get the job done even when...
This is show 231, and you take 231.
Even when Walter Clayton Jr. wasn't at his best, he didn't score until the 15-minute mark of the second half. And you know what always pops into my mind, and this is maybe like a Jay Query thing. I don't know. Your mind and my mind work kind of the same way. I saw this tweet from David Warlock, who works for the NCAA,
right.
Tweeted that Florida is now, I think, the 9th program with 3 or more titles. And he listed out all the programs. And I'm going down the list, and I'm thinking, okay.
How many of them have accumulated those since
Indiana's last one? How many,
Hold on, I'll tell you.
Obviously, Florida's won all 3 of theirs in that span.
Connecticut?
UConn's won all 6 of theirs. Duke has won all 5 of theirs. Kansas has doubled their total from 2 to 4. It's still amazing, isn't it, that Kansas only has 4 titles?
Totally.
Because they're in it every year. Kentucky has won 3, 96, 98, and 12. Louisville's won 1 in that span, 13. But everybody's won 1. UCLA won in 95. Villanova has won 2, right? Because they won whatever years those were.
80.
17 and 19
right.
or whatever. I don't remember.
Right.
16 and 18, whatever it was. And then who am I missing on that list? Oh, Carolina. Carolina's won 3. 09.
So of the 9 schools that
and
have
won the other one that beat Carolina.
So of the 9 schools that have won 3 titles.
Villanova.
Of the 9 schools who have won at least 3 NCAA titles. Yeah. Every one of them has won one since Indiana?
Yes. Everyone has added at least 1 to that list since Indiana has. But it's just, in 1987, they had 3 more titles than Kansas. They had 4 more titles than Kansas. Kansas would have only had the 50 whatever that was, 52, 54.
They had 2 more than Carolina.
Right? Yeah, the Clyde Lovellette Kansas team was the only one. They had 5 more than Duke. I mean, Duke wasn't even a blue blood back then. Duke was a Johnny-come-lately, right? They just kind of burst onto the scene. UConn was nothing at that time. Florida basketball? Are you serious? Florida basketball, 1987? I mean,
Here's the other thing that comes into play that jumped out at me. Florida, I mean, you're talking about a coach, and Todd Golden's kind of a creepy dude.
Yeah, if you don't know the history there, you might want to check that out.
The cell phone has a key component in the background of both Kelvin Sampson and Todd Golden.
Yeah, it does.
But when they were on the stage, and I get it, he's 39 years old, but all of a sudden, like, the kid in him came out, and he's just like, let's go, win to the Natty, let's go. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you're the coach now. It's okay. But having said that, clearly a bright coach, 3rd year there, and a masterful job of building that program. But one of the things, or rebuilding, I guess, that program, but one of the things to me that's interesting, Derek, is in the era of NIL and in the era of, getting as much money as you can for the Rivals 150, and getting your 5-star point guard and, the Jordan Elite AAU MVP or whatever else. Florida goes out and wins a national championship behind the heels of a kid that was a 3-star recruit that started at Iona.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
he got more high major interest as a football player than he did as a basketball player.
And that's now where, to be honest with you, that's how Indiana's going to have to rebuild, right? Is going through I think Indiana's going the Curt Cignetti model basketball-wise here of we're going to focus on building this roster on players that have been playing for a while and know what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's why the freak out about not landing the highest-rated guy, I think, is unwarranted.
Right.
As much as people keep going back to this, and I've said it's really kind of unrepeatable. It was a once-in-a-lifetime type thing, but this Curt Cignetti model. Right, the Curt Cignetti model. If you're going to go and do the Curt Cignetti model, the model for him was bringing a bunch of players with experience who knew what they were doing and had won at a high level with that experience.
Right.
I mean, that's why.
From his last stop.
Yes, that's why, largely from his last spot, but he got other transfers that had meaningful college experience and winning college experience as well. And I think that's what Darren DeVries is trying to do at Indiana. It's just hard, Jake, because this is the new world of college basketball. Like, if you would have told somebody 10 years ago, hey, guess what? It's April 8th, and Indiana has 4 players on its roster, you'd be like, excuse me, what? Is Tom Crean taking over again? Is it Devin Dumas and Verdell Jones and Matt Roth? Because that's what it feels like. Because you never had to deal with something like that where you're literally your entire team, and the women's basketball is going through it too. Right. Your entire team's gone. They're gone. You're
but this is true everywhere, seemingly.
No,
right?
but it's the new reality, right? So it's hard for fans to not panic when you see that because you don't know how to deal with it because it's never been done before.
Let me ask you this: is Houston a blue blood?
No, you can't be a blue blood without a title. At
least
one.
Here's why I bring it up: the national championship game between Houston and Florida was a good game, and it had a fun finish.
Yeah, it was dramatic. It was
dramatic.
Intense.
And Florida. You don't think of them as a blue blood, but my gosh, they've won 3 titles now in 20 years, right?
Yeah, they've been to 1 fewer Elite Eight than Indiana has.
Right. So Florida, but I was thinking about this. The NCAA tournament, we love Cinderellas, and we love new storylines, and we love new people coming to the party. You had a Final Four with 4 number ones. Clearly, Duke is a blue blood, right? Auburn's not. But for as much as we talk about how we love new storylines, the storyline, like Florida and Houston, to me, that national championship game was like, yeah, I guess I'll watch it. But it didn't have the oomph factor to me because it was like if the college football playoff had been, and I'm going to take Indiana, let's just say that we are living in Miami.
Yeah.
If the college football playoff had come down to Indiana and Arizona State,
yeah,
would it have had the same level of interest that it does when it's Ohio State and Notre Dame? Or,
I agree.
USC and whoever. I mean, I realize it's the national championship game. I realize it is two teams, one of which has been to more Final Fours than any non-champion in the history of the sport, and the other of which has won back-to-back titles in the last 20 years. But even still, those two teams, it was like, okay. I mean, do you get the impression that either one of them has a fan base that's just like clamoring over every basket?
No, and I think it's very similar to like the Greg Oden, Ohio, and Mike Conley, Ohio State team when they played Florida. And you're like, didn't I just watch this football game?
Right.
You know, there's just something. Florida basketball, Florida could win the next 7 national titles, and I just won't ever view them like a basketball school.
Right.
I just won't. Maybe that's me being a kid of the 90s and Fun and Gun and Steve Spurrier, but
what we talked about, though, Derek, Florida is an interesting basketball program because annually when the brackets come out, I mean, every year you're like, wait a minute, Florida's 27-6 and a 4 seed.
But Florida is a lot like UConn. Like when they're great, they're elite and they're in the Final Four or they're in the championship game or they're winning the title. All the other years, they're just kind of
right,
like 27-10 and they're a 7 seed or something, or sometimes they don't make the tournament at all. I mean, certainly that's been the case with UConn. Whereas Kansas and Carolina and Duke and Gonzaga and teams like that, they're in it every year. I mean, they're in the second weekend every year. They're a lot of times they're in the Final Four seemingly every year. But what they did, I think, and the path that they took, I would have definitely said this about Houston, but I still think Florida is in that argument. They faced, am I right in saying they faced the top possible seed in every game?
No, that was Houston.
I thought Florida did too. Did they not?
Let me see.
Because UConn was an 8, right? Oh, wait, they would have played Texas Tech and not St. John's because St. John's was
Correct.
the 2. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, that's a really rigorous
Correct.
road that they had to face
and
where
Texas Tech
where
was
it was a
better
bunch of
than
high
St. John's.
seeds. Yeah. Like when Kansas, the last all number 1 seed Final Four, I don't know why I remember this, was 2008. And Kansas obviously had to beat 2 1 seeds, right, to win the title. And they beat a really good Memphis team with Derrick Rose. And they beat, was it North Carolina? I think was the other number 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken. So Tyler Hansborough's penultimate year. But they beat like an 8, a 12, and I think Stephen Curry's Davidson team in the Elite 8, a 10. So they beat like all double-digit seeds up until that point. But Florida and Houston both just faced tremendous competition, and the context of it with Houston facing Purdue and Tennessee in Indianapolis, where it was very much a partisan crowd towards those two teams. I feel bad though for Houston. I mean, to get 7 Final Fours, 7 bites at the apple, and come up short is tough. It's it's a tough one, and for them to just crumple under the moment like they did. I'm not trying to discredit Florida. Well, those last 3 possessions for Houston, they had no idea what they were doing.
Houston turned into Duke.
They were failed.
They turned into what they did to Duke, right?
I mean, at the end of the day, you don't think of it because these guys are all getting paid million. A lot of them are getting paid in the millions, if not the high 6 figures. And they're, some of them are 23, 24 years old because college eligibility has extended that long, it feels like. But at the end of the day, they're kids, right? And just like anybody else, they're human and they crumple under those circumstances.
Let me tell you one thing that jumped out at me that I found interesting. And I apologize that I'm going to ask the name here. What was the name of the Houston player at the end of the game that went up for the 3 and lost the ball?
Was it Cryer that did that?
It might have been Cryer. Either way, as the ball gets away from him and is bouncing and he's standing there just kind of holding off the 2 Florida players, and you're like, dude, what are you doing? It's amazing to me that in that moment, with a national championship on the line, with a national audience, in a stadium with 60,000 people, he is the one person on earth that had the presence of mind of knowing that if he touches the ball there, it is a travel. He is not eligible to touch the basketball. And anybody else's instinct is to immediately go and grab that ball and then, boom, turn the ball over. For him to have the presence of mind and the awareness to know that he can't touch it, but the lack of awareness for their lack of execution of a play is the ultimate dichotomy within a 5-second frame.
But again, you don't expect it, right? Like you're on the floor, you're thinking he's going to take that shot, and then the final 3 seconds, you realize, hey, the ball's just bouncing there, and I'm standing over here, I'm 5 feet away. I'm not thinking about that.
I'm saying for him, though, to know that as soon as he lost it, like, I can't touch it.
Now, if I'm not mistaken,
anybody's instinct is to go and get that ball.
And I don't watch sports the way that I used to because I'm so distracted now because I've got Twitter up and all this other stuff, and I'm watching on multiple screens. I think that same thing happened in the Auburn game in the final minutes where I'm not sure if it was Cryer or somebody else on Houston. They went up for a shot fake, basically, but they got caught in between, and he left his feet. And then he came back down and touched it again and then got called. Is that a double dribble or a travel?
It's a travel.
Okay, it's a travel because he touched it again. So I'm not sure if it was the same player, if it was Cryer again, but I think that was
right,
top
on his
of
brain,
mind.
right.
Yeah, but I mean, I think guys know that once you do that, you can't touch it again. No, it was Sharp that did it. So Sharp was the one that went up.
Last night or in the Auburn game?
No, Cryer had the turnover. Okay, so they had 3 possessions. It was a 64-63 game, and they had 3 different possessions. No, they were up 63-62. So in the final minute, Houston had 3 possessions. Cryer dribbled into a crowd, turned it over. I think Sharp stepped out of bounds, didn't he?
It's funny you mentioned because in the last 30 seconds, I was actually doing something on social media and missed that.
I think Sharp stepped out of bounds in the second to last. I mean, you guys can rewatch it at home, I guess. Second to last possession, I think he had his foot on the line and stepped out. Or maybe that was an earlier possession. Houston did not cloak themselves in glory in the final couple of minutes. And then you had Sharp again, and you feel for the kid, right? It's not his fault. It's just everybody collapsed. The whole team collapsed.
Right.
Once Houston...
Which is what they caused other teams to do forever.
Houston was one of those rare teams where you felt way more comfortable with them having to get one stop than having to get one shot.
Correct.
So if they were up 64-63, I'd feel fully comfortable
and Derek, look,
with them defending that play as opposed to being – not that they weren't a great offense, but –
and this needs to be pointed out, okay? I don't like the guy at all. I'm not a fan of him. I think he's arrogant. I thought he was arrogant when he was here, and in the it's unfair for me to say that that's true in totality. In my one introduction to him, he was as arrogant as can be, and the people I talked to that were around it in Bloomington, all signs point to the fact that Kelvin Sampson was arrogant as can be at Indiana.
Yeah.
Having said that, he is undeniably an elite-level basketball coach. And what is unfortunate about his lack of respect for rules earlier in his career as a coach, and the fact that it followed him from Oklahoma to Indiana, and then again, say what you want about the elementary level of rules that he broke or the fact that they are no longer even rules or violations today. The reality is that he broke rules at that time, and then it's always the case, it was the cover-up, not the crime, because he lied to investigators and I believe had his assistants do the same during the NCAA investigation. He was given a 5-year suspension by the NCAA. Indiana fired him because he was given a 5-year suspension. Having said all of that, there is no denying that his teams play the way that if you are a fan of basketball, you have to appreciate. They play relentless defense. They, with the exception of last night in the most critical moments, but for the most part, they make plays down the stretch, and they seem like, and this was not the case when he was at Indiana, but the team that he put together for Houston, by all account from what I saw, seemed like really good guys and guys that you would want to cheer for. They play hard. They execute what their coach asks them to do. For 99.9% of the night last night, they did that, but throughout the course of the tournament. And their defense is relentless. That is as good a defense as you are going to see in college basketball. And kudos to Florida for overcoming that. But if you can take away the things from the bias of the Indiana localized standpoint, Kelvin Sampson is undeniably a great coach and probably the best coach of the last quarter century to not win a national championship.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it last week, but Houston basketball, to say that they were off the radar is an insult to the radar. Like, right. They weren't even it's like they might as well have not even existed from Phi Slamma Jamma until Kelvin Sampson got there for 30 years. Honestly, they did nothing.
You're right.
Nothing. And he's had them on the doorstep now. I mean, what have they been, a 1 seed 4 straight years?
Yeah, I mean.
And Final Four in 21, and then another one here. And obviously
he himself
on
has been to 3 Final Fours, right?
Yeah, a coin flip because they lost Indiana in 2002. A great coach, but again, and you see it from other people, especially national people that weren't aware. Well, what would have happened, or what could have happened, or what might have been, and there's no might have. There was no decision there from Indiana. Indiana was not being a good Boy Scout, and we gotta take care of Kelvin Sampson because he's breaking rules, and we don't do that in Indiana. That's not what happened.
Right.
Indiana had no choice but to do what they did. And, I was gone by then. So I graduated and I did a victory lap because all my my roommates were under me and we still had a lease on the house. So I had the entire Mike Davis era. But I was still around because Ashley was still in school. So we were seeing each other then. We had an on and off period. I'm not going to get into all of that. But
what do you memean?
So like 07, you're the king of on-off periods. So you don't need to be explained to you what an on-off period is.
Who took the break?
Just don't worry about it.
Was there let me ask you this. Was there a free agency period?
There was.
Was there?
Yeah, for both of us.
Tampering?
There was not. No, I wouldn't call it tampering. I was tampered with.
What?
Somebody else tampered with me.
Really?
And that caused a bit of we have a wonderful life and we're happy. Like it was a long time. I made a decision that I shouldn't have made at the time. But let's get to Sampson. We're not talking about my decision making back then.
What about who tampered with her?
Just relax, okay? We're not going to dig any more into this.
Are you cool with that guy?
Can I make a point?
You said both of you guys went through free agency.
I didn't know what else was going on the other end. We parted, stayed apart, eventually drifted back together.
What was the reconciliation like? Did you like run into each other in a field of flowers and it was like, oh, and then
no? What ended up happening was I called her because I was she says I was homeless. I was in between leases.
Okay.
For about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I had nowhere to go. I wasn't going to go back to Connecticut for 6 weeks. There's no way I was going to stay with my parents for 6 weeks. My parents and I didn't have the best relationship back then. Hi, Dad, if you're watching. Sorry about who I was when I was 22. And she had a futon. And then the futon wasn't very comfortable, so then I was like, can I just sleep in the bed? And then, yeah.
This is a heartwarming story.
Yeah, that's that. So, I mean, that's the step by step.
So you were a charity case. She wrote you off on her taxes for a year.
I kept asking, hey, it's cold at night. It was this, even in the summer months it gets cold, and I don't want to sleep on, the corner outside of Kilroy's. So can I come crash? And then her roommate, Crystal, who's the godmother of our son, she and Jeff had a similar sort of situation. Yeah.
Jeff is a free agent.
She was a free agent. No. Yes, Jeff was a free agent that was trying to tamper.
Did you, with Ashley?
No, Crystal. Yeah, Jeff
but,
and no.
But how do you know that?
Never had that.
But how do you know that Jeff and Ashley didn't?
Oh, come on, man. That's gross because he's like my best friend and he's the godfather of my son. But B, no, that's
but you
not
were
what
unaware
happened.
of what was happening.
No, there was another. Can we get to the point that I was going to do? I was going to make a point about Kelvin Sampson, all right? And we went on like a 10-minute tangent because you won't leave me alone about this. Okay. What was I talking about? Oh, the text messages things. When you're a student, even at a huge place like Indiana, word gets around about things. Like students know kind of what's going on with the basketball players or the football players, depending on what school you're at, the athletes, right? The high-profile other students. And you would hear some things, and I'm not saying that everything that you heard was absolutely accurate, but judging who some of those players have become in their adult lives, I think it's reasonable to think that those things were accurate. Indiana had some bad guys, and I'm not talking bad guys like they were getting hammered drunk on the weekend or whatever and like showing up to practice late. I mean like bad guys like
correct.
They against the law type guys, like heavy stuff that Sampson had in that program. So even if, let's say the phone calls were never a thing, let's say the NCAA violations were never a thing, given the core of players that he had there on that 07-08 team, they wouldn't have lasted very much longer. I mean, listen to some of Eric Gordon's interviews, and Eric Gordon is nice enough to not kind of come out and say exactly what was going on, but I think Eric Gordon got to Bloomington and was like, what's going on here, man? I'm here to play basketball.
Totally. He's basically said
what
that,
is
right?
this?
He's basically said that.
Yeah, and that was the situation that was over. I mean, go through that roster and look up, like check out what Armand Bassett and some of those other guys have done in their post-basketball lives, and it tells the story. Yeah.
No question. I mean, I totally agree.
So, we're not ones to defend, even though, you and I both grew up huge IU fans, right? We're not ones to defend Indiana on this show. If you're a longtime watcher of the show, now, we criticize far more than we defend Indiana, but I'll defend Indiana with the Sampson thing.
Derek, that leads to, and I'll do this as what we call a tease for later in a discussion. You just mentioned, like, when you were in Bloomington and you were not a student, but you were living in Bloomington. And living in Bloomington, you were seeing and hearing of what was going on within, like, the basketball program. Because, it's not New York City, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to use Indiana as an example, but I had a conversation yesterday with somebody about the situation of, I think, what's going to be the real challenge upcoming for college basketball in general when it comes to the NIL and how teams are going to have to navigate through something they maybe not have thought of before.
Okay. That's fine. You want to get to our winner of the week?
I love the Prairie Farms bottle with Will Power on it. The commemorative bottles are available.
Very cool.
The American Dairy Association of Indiana has been very good to Derek and I. As a matter of fact, we are going to be once again, and we are honored to do so, emceeing the fastest rookie luncheon for the 109th now running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Oh, my God, yeah. 109.
And
look at Rick's got more. Oh, awesome. Thank you.
How about that, baby? The chocolate milk. Because you know what we say about chocolate milk?
Double fisting. Just like I did back in that era when I was futon crashing in Bloomington. Greg knew me then.
Derek, there's a double entendre there that you don't want to go with.
Double fisting?
Yeah. What?
It's like drinking like two
okay,
beers.
well, we'll leave it at that. By the way, speaking like if you work out, which you can't tell by Derek's sweatshirt today.
I do.
But
Thank
he
you.
Occasionally does.
Thank you.
I just did the other day, as a matter of fact. I did some lifting. A little sore today.
Ooh.
Between that and the dental work, I'm a little sore.
Yeah.
But there is no better post-workout beverage than chocolate milk. Chocolate milk is absolutely outstanding because, Derek, as we know, it has as much protein as 2 hard-boiled eggs.
2 hard-boiled eggs. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yep. Go. Next one I'll get.
Vitamin A, as much as?
A banana.
No.
10 cups of spinach.
Cups of raw spinach.
Yeah.
And potassium as?
Banana.
Yes.
I knew
and, of
banana
course,
was
it's
one
as
of them.
refreshing as can be. The American Dairy Association also not only provides that wonderful post-workout drink for you, but it also provides the milk for the winner of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and that is courtesy of Hoosier Farmers. Derek and I have gotten to know a lot of them over the course of the last year or so. Hardworking people, family-oriented people, great folks. It is always an honor to represent them, and they bring us each and every week our winner of the week.
God, shout out to Brooke, too, and the entire ADAI team.
Brooke and Jenny.
They have the winner's drink milk right there. I mean, these are awesome.
Yeah, totally.
You talk about great marketing.
Totally.
Right there for winner's drink milk. The big winner, the most outstanding player, the mop of the tournament, Walter Clayton Jr. There are some guys, even guys, and he's now being talked about as a first-round pick, but you tell me if you agree with this. One of these guys is in my wheelhouse. One of these guys is
23
not so
grams
much in my
of protein
wheelhouse.
right there, and as tasty as can be.
Tell me if you agree with me saying this. Kemba Walker was an NBA All-Star. I think Danny Manning went to an All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken. But both of those guys played in the league 10, 12 years. Manning obviously had the injuries. I still think both of those guys are more remembered for who they were as college players, don't you? Because of what they did, dominating their tournaments?
Yes.
So, even if we've become so obsessed with, is this guy an NBA draft
You can
pick?
make the same for Glenn Rice.
Like, why do I care whether Walter Clayton Jr. is an NBA draft pick? Why do I care? He's the most outstanding. He was the best player in an NCAA tournament on a national championship team. Like, to me, you're set for life.
Miles Simon.
Yeah, who cares? Who cares if he wasn't a good – I think he got drafted by Orlando, right? He was a second-round pick. Braden Smith is a great example. Like, people are like, well, he's 6 feet tall. I mean, he's not – who cares? He's an unbelievable college player. He took over this tournament. I mean, he was, like you said.
Do you notice the shadow that's created by my glasses that makes it look like I have, like,
no.
Is that?
Nobody notices.
Do I have that?
He was a 2-3-star recruit, whatever he was. He blew up at Iona. He was the MAC Player of the Year in 2003. And he's been a winner his whole life, too. I mean, he captured multiple state championships.
Did he play for
Florida
Pitino?
Yeah, he would have had to have because Pitino's only been at St. John's 2 years. So his last year, when he won the MAC award, would have been Pitino's last year.
It's interesting. That means that he would have played for Rick Pitino, right? Mm-hmm. At a smaller school. You know who else played for Rick Pitino at a smaller school but then found his way to Florida? Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan. Yeah. Providence as well.
Nobody says that. It's MAAC.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
That league.
They're talking about renaming it. Isn't that sad? That makes me really sad. I don't want them to ever rename the MAC. Because it's not the MAC. The MAC is like Ball State, Miami of Ohio. That's the MAC.
It's the MAAC.
There's an extra A in there, so you have to. I mean, you can't be like obnoxious with it, right? But you have to at least accentuate the
MAAC.
The extra A. MAC. We come back on the show. When we come back, that's my favorite reoccurring thing that we do on the show. We do a lot of dumb reoccurring things on the show, but that's my favorite one. NFL owners meetings. We haven't talked about the Tush Push. Everybody's talking. Should we talk about the Tush Push? Do you want to talk about the Tush Push?
Do you want me to get sarcastic? Because I'll get real sarcastic on you.
Okay, yeah. Let's.
Okay.
We'll talk about the Tush Push.
I'm going to get real cynical and real sarcastic.
And the Pacers. By the time you're watching this, the Pacers might have already been the 4 seed. Might have already clinched it. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll talk Pacers as well because Vince is here and he demands that we talk Pacers. It's Query and Schultz presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network.
Tonight.
We cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in, it's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching, barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgages and a snap! Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey & Wood presents Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. You can see the little Bailey & Wood logo right there. BAWFG.com.
The very best.
The very best. That's right. 855-350-HOME. Whether you're looking to get pre-approved for your home mortgage or you are looking to refinance, call Mike Wood and his team at Bailey & Wood Financial Group. I wonder what's going to happen here with home prices. I mean, this is kind of a different – I read an article last night about people panic buying because of this tariff stuff. So, like, buying, like, big purchases, like big ticket items because you're like, oh, my God, I need a car. I better buy a car right now before prices go up. I wonder if that'll affect the home market. I don't know enough to know about that, but Mike Wood and his team do. So if you want to give them a call and see, they will give you the best advice and the best customer service that you can get. 5-star customer service, 855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com.
I don't know what'll happen, but I do know this.
You need a new car, don't you?
Good question. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I
did have an engine problems?
Yeah, I did some repair work to it though, and
it's not that old. It's just that you run your cars hard.
I just drive a lot of miles.
Yeah, you run your cars pretty hard.
Yeah.
NFL owners meetings in Florida. I know you spent an entire week on your show talking exactly about this topic and nothing about this topic. We haven't talked about the Tush Push thing. Jake and I have complete creative control over this show, unlike our old radio show. So we both kind of just take a break from the NFL for a while.
We had complete control of that because no one knew we did it.
Well, yeah, that was part of it too. But we kind of just, February and March, outside of like NFL free agency and stuff like that, we just kind of leave the NFL alone. We'll get into the draft stuff and all
Derek,
that.
I have a theory on this. Okay, here's my cynicism. I have a theory on the Tush Push ruling in the NFL. This has been all the topic, all the rage, all the discussion for the last 2 weeks. The NFL owners, they're going to rule on whether or not players can push a running back or a quarterback across the line, and then they're going to rule on kickoffs. So the NFL has decided that they now are going to monopolize the entire sports calendar. And the month of March belonged to college basketball. Just did. And then the NFL said, it's March Madness is really big. I mean, the Super Bowl is the biggest show on earth, but March Madness is probably second close on the American culture. And do we need to start doing something to – I mean, we're getting FOMO here. It's been almost 6 weeks between the Super Bowl and then like getting set for the combine and everything, and then between the combine and the draft itself, we've got a hole where there's almost 2 weeks where no one talks about us. You know what we should do? Let's have owners meetings, which we've been doing forever, but we'll make up like what here's the thing. What if we make up like this rule that we're thinking about taking away, and we get a lot of people to talk about how critical it would be if we did so, and then everyone will talk about it. Is there anybody 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago that cared one iota about whether or not it was legal to push a guy? Did anybody care?
I hear you.
And it became literally this, it dominated the news cycle. The NFL is the master engineer of keeping themselves in the news cycle. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think, if you want my take on it, I find it annoying. That doesn't mean that it should be banned. You can't give me a legitimate reason why this should be banned. And the people that say, well, it's a health concern. It is? Where's the data on that? Can you show me a injury? One? From a tush push play?
Right.
Kickoffs are dangerous because they're dangerous, like the traditional kickoffs. Like they had data to support that. Running full speed while a ball is in the air, full sprint, so you can spear somebody is an injury risk. Tush push, coaches don't like it because they can't stop it. And I'm not trying to sit here and be like, well, like when we have these discussions about running up the score in like high school sports. Well, if you don't like it, you should stop it. No, there's a sportsmanship element of that, especially in amateur sports. In this case, though, as much as it annoys me, I mean, it's not straight Bush League. You know what really annoyed me that I'm glad they got away with, I'm glad they did away with, and this actually is an anti-Colts take. I hated when Peyton Manning would rush to the line and catch teams into substitution. I thought it was Bush League. I did. Now it was completely within the rules, right? And Colts fans loved it, but watching at home, I was like, this is cheap.
How long is it going to be before – I'm going to predict it right now. In the next 3 years, we're going to have an NFL offseason owners meeting discussion where the big thing is going to be, should they outlaw the fake spike? Fake spike. You saw Marino was first to do it, and now look at what happened. And this should be outlawed. This is unfair, and let's vote on it. And it's going to be all the discussion. It's going to dominate the news cycle.
They're going to get the votes, right? Because they got a whole month. What do they table this till May? So they got a whole month, and they need, what do they need? 8 votes? Is it 2/3? I'll go back and look again. They'll probably end up getting the votes that they need to get rid of this. Because it's something that only really benefits one team, because only the Eagles have been able to pull this off. So I think that portion of it, to me, as much as a viewer and a fan, I don't like the tush push. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean that I think it should be banned from the league.
Right.
Because there's no reason to ban it outside of, I don't like this. And that's a pretty crappy rule.
Two guys that just got done talking about some small league in the northeast part of the country that nobody knows how to pronounce. No, it's the MAAC. Those two guys are now talking about the NFL because they've come up with this tush push thing.
That's right. I've been looking at mock drafts. Please don't mock me. Is there a chance that the Colts? I'm seeing Colston Loveland in the top 10 as well. The other
right.
tight end from Michigan.
Yes, they could miss out on a tight end.
Is there a chance they could miss both of those guys?
Yes.
I mean, Warren is most routinely mocked to the Colts at 14. Like, you see him in like 90% of the mock drafts. So maybe that's still the case. I just, as much as I'm much more of a BPA guy when it comes to the draft, best player available.
Okay.
So 99% of the time, I think you should go BPA. But I think the Colts not only have the worst tight end room in the league, I think it might be the worst positional room of any team at any position in the entire NFL.
That's fair.
That's how bad they are at tight end. And because of that, I think you may have pigeonholed yourself into taking one. But tight end has the same track record as wide receiver. Wide receiver is very dicey in the NFL when you're taking one in the first 2 rounds. They either end up being A.J. Brown or they end up being Paris Campbell.
Right, you're right.
And tight end is the same way, where there's a big variance in between the type of player that you get. So there's no guarantee that, when the Colts drafted Quentin Nelson 6th, you knew that he was going to be like a Hall of Fame player. You just knew it.
Name for me the Notre Dame quarterback.
right now.
Yes.
It's
that's in the draft. That just played.
Riley Leonard.
Year.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm going to make a prediction for you right now. My name is Jake Query. It is the
Colts are going to draft him
8th of April.
Mm-hmm.
The Indianapolis Colts, somewhere between rounds 3 through 5, if either player is available, will take a very hard look at, and it would not surprise me at all if Riley Leonard or Quinn Ewers is drafted by the Colts in the mid-round.
What about Will Howard?
Maybe, but those are the two that I think have a better.
Isn't Ewers projected higher than that?
Yeah, Ewers is starting to work his way up.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I thought he was.
There are some that say now second round, but okay, Howard. I'll throw Howard as the third of that trio, but I'm telling you that Riley Leonard and Quinn Ewers are two players they like.
My hottest take, and I guess this will have to wait until August because we'll see it play out. But my hottest Colts take is that Daniel Jones is going to be the Week 1 starter.
I think that's
my hottest flaming hot take.
But I don't think that's flaming hot.
I think the conventional wisdom, I still think, is that it's Richardson's job to lose, and that the Colts are just saying this to light a fire under Richardson.
You don't pay.
And that Richardson's going to be the guy.
You don't pay that to just light a fire.
No, I agree with you. I think this is I very rarely do this, and maybe I'm falling into a trap here. I'm doing something that I don't normally do. I'm taking the Colts at their word. I very rarely do that.
Right.
Because taking the Colts at their word, especially when it comes to the quarterback situation in the last 10 years, if you did that, you'd be far more often wrong than right.
Can you imagine
right?
if Daniel Jones becomes the starter, they go 10-7, and then they draft 19th.
And Bauer keeps his job.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's my flaming hot take. That's what I think that is a much
Derek,
more plausible situation than people realize.
50% of the country is, or 50% of the Colts nation is in agreement with you.
I mean, I used to think that they were all tied together. Even Steichen. I thought Steichen, Ballard, Richardson, if this fails, they all go and you clean house. And look, if they went, let's say Jones got injured or something, and then you had Richardson out there and they went 4-12. Then yeah, or 4-13. I do think that at that point Ballard would be gone. I think Steichen would be gone too, and Richardson certainly would be gone. So there is a scenario that is not too crazy that this could all flame out this year. But I don't think that those guys are necessarily all tied together. I don't. For a while I thought, well, if Richardson fails, Ballard won't be around to pick the next quarterback. But now I'm not so sure.
Ballard's Teflon, man.
Now I'm not so sure. What I'm worried about, Jake, is that we enter right back into the cycle that they just tried to get out of. And that's just get the bridge quarterback.
Yeah,
Just keep getting the bridge quarterback again. Because now that, it's winning at all costs. Remember, 2 years ago and last year, it wasn't winning at all costs. It was let's develop and be patient, everybody. Now it's we got to win games right now, no matter what. And we all know that even with Daniel Jones, even like pie in the sky expectation for Daniel Jones, this team has a very clearly defined
Daniel
ceiling.
Jones wins the starting job and they win Week 1, does that make him eligible for our Hoagies and Hops Hero of the Week?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, do you want to do that right now? All right.
Way to pick up what I'm dropping there, Derek.
Good transition. That was our old sales guy. That was his big saying.
That's correct. He used to. I'm picking up what you're dropping.
We won't name any names, but he was a nice guy. He was a very nice guy. Mm-hmm. Nice guys and gals at our friends at Hoagies and Hops.
I think I can eat this after my dental work. My mouth's still sore.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine. This is the Shipyard. And I always say this every time that we feature all these sandwiches on a rotating basis, right? So every 9 weeks, 10 weeks, we have this sandwich, this sando,
fantastic.
The Shipyard. I'm never like, oh my God, I'm craving a tuna sandwich, right? And for the most part, 99% of people probably eat tuna sandwiches at home. If you're a frequent flyer at Hoagies and Hops, I implore you to give this sandwich a try. Because even if you're not a tuna person, and I'm not really a tuna person, it is the best tuna sandwich you'll ever have in your life. So we have house-made tuna sal, made in-house by Christina. Some fresh prove on the Licio's bread, shipped in from South Jersey. Some L, some T, some O, some OO, and the hidden ingredient, parm. Oh, and peppadew pep.
Tell you what, the provolone makes it just wonderful.
I love the parm in the oil.
By the way, and of course it partners perfectly with the hazy. Chili water is absolutely fantastic. Matter of fact, ran into some friends over the weekend, and he was just getting ready. He was telling me that their 6-piece, 8-piece brass band is getting ready to play a gig at Chillywater down on the Fountain Square towards Fountain Square location. But of course, Chillywater right there, right next to Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard. Wide array of fresh brewed beers, ice cold beers right there on draft, including, we love, for example, their Mexican lager. They have a bunch of different ones. This one here, the Hazy, Derek. Mm-hmm. How about that? The Dr. Feelgood Hazy IPA. What are you doing?
I'm doing my best Axl Rose impression.
No. It's Motley Crue.
They should have done like the Guns
N'
Roses
I'll tell you what,
had a logo, didn't they?
Here's what I love about that. That is a very so I like a hoppy beer, right? But hoppy beer, a lot of times if there's a lot of hop to it, it feels more like a cozy wintertime beer. This has a hop to it, but it's so smooth that it's like a summertime hoppy beer. The Dr. Feelgood Hazy IPA.
I would say this is an any season beer.
Totally.
Whereas, some of the dark ones, the stouts and things like that are more for the winter.
Correct.
And then like a Kolsch or something, real bright and airy would be a sour or something like that would be for the summer months. But I think this is an all seasons beer. They have a great, and I'm not an IPA person, they have a great IPA array there at Chillywater Brewing. Also at 42nd and Boulevard, catering and full menu options at hoagiesandhops.com. Our Hero of the Week. We don't usually go down this road because we're not fans of this sport, nor do we follow it. But if you were asking me to name 5 hockey players, one that I would be able to name right away is Alexander Ovechkin, who is now the all-time goal scorer in NHL history. Scored goal number, isn't it amazing? 895 goals. Can you imagine? 895 goals. Past Wayne Gretzky, who basically owns every single record, to become that leader. Got it on a pass from a longtime teammate named Tom Wilson. You could have told me Tom Wilson was North Central class of 92. You know what I mean? I'd have no idea. Netted the record breaker in a 4-1 loss to the Islanders, so people actually paid attention to the Islanders, which is cool. It was done. This is kind of a cool stat. It was done in his 1,487th game, which is the same as Gretzky's career games.
Right.
Gretzky played 1,487. This is the grade 8's 20th season. He'll turn 40 in September. The cool thing about hockey is that guys routinely play into their 40s. So he could. I mean, if it was me, I would try to make this goal as unreachable, this record as unreachable as possible.
What's amazing is, and I know I'm pointing out what's been pointed out 1,000 times, in hockey, to score a point is either through a goal or an assist, right? The all-time points scoring leader in hockey history in the NHL is Wayne Gretzky, who still holds it if you take away all of his goals.
Yeah, just on assists alone.
Unbelievable.
It is the most unbreakable mark in sports. More than the 56-game hitting streak, more than, Pete Rose's hit record will never be touched. Not with the way player management and rest and things like that. Like, guys don't play 162 games and grind it out for 20 years anymore. That'll never be touched either. But it is on that list of the unbreakable type records. But good for Ovechkin. He won his cup. What was that when the Capitals won? Was that pre-COVID or post-COVID?
Right.
Five
right
years
around
ago,
then,
4 years ago, something like that. I don't know. Nobody in there knows. God, that makes me feel old. Look at that. He's all gray. He looks like Jake. If you grew a beard, would it be like that? Would it be like gray in the middle, you think?
No, it's white.
You have really bad facial hair growing abilities.
No, it's not accurate at all.
You can't grow facial hair.
That's totally inaccurate.
Can you?
I just shave. Yeah, I shave like every 3 days.
Yeah, prove it. Let it grow out one time.
No, it's terrible.
Can you grow a mustache?
Yes.
Like mine?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
No, you can't. It's okay. It's okay to admit that you can't. Thanks to our friends at Hoagies and Hops. They can make you a delicious sando just like this Shipyard. We come back on the show, some quick hits as we tie a bow on the college basketball season and the new reality of college sports. I have a guy in college football who just transferred again, and you're going to recognize this name, and you're not going to believe it, that he still actually has 2 full years of eligibility left. Yes.
Okay.
I'll tell you who it is when we come back. It's Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves.
Indiana Dairy Farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Welcome back. Brandon Schultz, presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group, ISC Sports Network. He's Jake.
How good did that milk look right there in the ad?
It looked good, yeah. And cows are pretty cool. Cows are kind of cool.
I told you. I mean, preaching to the choir here.
It's weird for me because, like, it wasn't, farms were very like, whoa, this is awesome, because we didn't have, in the Northeast, people live on top of each other. Like, the population density where I grew up is insane.
But Connecticut's got a lot of farms, doesn't it?
Upstate, like up by Yukon, there were farms, but we didn't spend a lot of time up there. So it was just, house on top of house on top of house. So when we'd come out to Bourbon, Indiana, is that Argus County? Rake knows usually the counties. I think it's Argus County. My Uncle Art's farm, rest in peace, Uncle Art, and Aunt Betty, also rest in peace. They had cows and sheep and horses and all kinds of stuff, and it was amazing.
Didn't they have a rooster?
Yeah, he was real mean. Real mean. He used to chase you. I think he was friends with the cows, but he was very protective of the cows.
Cows are friends with everybody.
Yeah.
They're cool.
But long story short, I like cows. That's
can I give you my quick college basketball prediction here?
Yeah, as part of the quick hits?
Well,
okay, Bourbon's in Marshall County. Okay. I went to the Argus County Fair one time. That's why I had Argus in my brain. But that's
what's the county seat of Marshall County?
Plymouth?
Is it that far? I thought it was a little bit further east.
Or is Plymouth wouldn't be St. Joe County,
Plymouth
would it?
Straight up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, let me look it up.
The
Marshall
county
seat.
Argus is in Marshall County, so that is Argus.
Okay,
the county
I went
seat?
to the Argus 4-H fair, so maybe they had their own. I thought they were all county.
At any rate, Derek, let me tell you something.
Yes,
right now.
county seat is Plymouth in Marshall County.
Here is the challenge for NIL era college basketball programs. I was talking yesterday to a very good friend of mine who is a booster for Indiana basketball. We went to IU together. He has a very successful business in Southern Indiana, and is a season ticket holder for Indiana. And he has an NIL or a ticket rep that calls him. And this is what is going to be interesting. Now, I know that they're getting ready to vote on further, like how NIL, like what the jurisdiction is going to be here. But this is what's eventually going to run into all of these programs. Indiana has a war chest like nobody else for NIL basketball, right?
10 mil?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of money, right? And so my buddy is a big contributor. And he told me, he said, Jake, they called me again this year and they said, hey, we got this big event. You want to come out? You can bring the kids, come to Assembly Hall, do whatever. It's an NIL fundraiser. And he said, finally, I told the guy, I'll be honest with you. I make pretty good money. I've got a good life, good living. I enjoy coming to the games. But I see these kids around town. They're driving a nicer car than I am. And for what? They won 19 games. They didn't get in the tournament. This Umar Ballo basically, just towards the end of the year, apparently one day at practice, just said, I don't feel like doing it today. What are you going to do? You need me to play. You gave me $1.3 million. Yeah. I'm good. And he said, so I just told him, I don't think I'm going to donate for a while. Well, I eventually you're going to run out of people to go to. And you can't – this is not sustainable. You can't keep going to the same alumni donor group and saying, hey, we just need another $20,000 this year, and we're going to get you we got a kid. You told me that last year, and you were 22-10 and sweating out Selection Sunday. Right?
Well, and think about the schools with much smaller alumni
bases
than Indiana. And you talk about Indiana going to the same people. I mean, cut their alumni base in half, and then think about, Iowa State or somebody like that and who they're going to.
Right. Eventually these boosters are going to say, we're doing this every single year. I don't have a problem giving a big donation to get a kid because we're giving him an opportunity to go to my school for 4 years, but not some kid that's going to be here for 8 months and then jump ship and he goes the next place down. And now we need, instead of $20,000, you're asking me for 50. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
I don't blame kids for it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's not sustainable.
I think ideally the model is you're using NIL to retain, right? Yes, of course you're going to have to be in the portal.
I'm taking another bite of my sandwich.
Of course you have to be in the portal, and you have to add pieces through there, and a lot of times the portal is money. That's how you add pieces. But I think the model that is going to have the most success, is the teams, and Indiana is well positioned to do this. Once they recruit a player who's a good player, and maybe you're using NIL for that, they become an all-league type player, and to keep them at Indiana.
Well, Purdue.
Yeah, or Purdue. You use NIL funds to retain.
Where we are right now, Derek, where we are right now is that schools have figured out that they can use NIL money, the money that they have, for big three, for three big players.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, if you can't get the money to retain a Miles Colvin and a Camden Heide and whatever else, then those guys jump and they go somewhere where they can be one of the big three and cash in.
Even though I will say, I do think the Colvin and Heide departures, I think, were more about they want to play. They don't want to just come in and be bit players, and Purdue has so much returning again that, best case scenario, Cam Heide would have been your fourth guy, or Miles Colvin would have been your fourth guy. They probably don't want to be the fourth guy. They want to go somewhere where they have the chance to be the second guy, the third guy, or even maybe in some cases the first guy. I don't know Wake Forest's situation because Wake Forest has been irrelevant for 20 years, but that's where Colvin's going. And Heidi's going to Texas, where they're going to have a new coach and probably a whole new, a clean slate where he can compete for a more prominent role than maybe he could have had at Purdue. Let's get to the quick hits. You had mentioned college basketball. The women crowned a champion. It was UConn for the first time in 9 years. Isn't it weird to think, hey,
underdog?
UConn. This is new and refreshing. Ashlyn Shade of Noblesville and Ayanna Patterson of Homestead, two Indiana natives, can now bring championship rings home. Shade was a key player for the Huskies. She was the Big East Sixth Woman of the Year. She was their fourth leading scorer. Patterson, unfortunately, just had back-to-back season-ending injuries, so she hasn't played since she was a freshman.
How many titles is that for Ariema?
12. Isn't that crazy? And I went to the game, their last title I went to in 16. It was the Breonna Stewart senior year. It was in Indianapolis, and they played Syracuse, and they beat them by 400 points. And I'm telling you, Jake, this is not UConn's fault, but the sport was broken at that point. I mean, that game was a joke. It was like if you would have had Florida play, somebody from the MAC.
Right.
MAC. Not even the MAC in a game. I mean, they were completely and totally overwhelmed. You could have played that game 10,000 times and UConn would have won all 10,000 of them. You could have played that tournament 10,000 times and UConn would have won all 10,000 times. Whereas this year, if you played the same tournament 10,000 times, Florida wins.
You're right.
I don't know, 2,500 of them, maybe?
There were
25%?
There were 5 to 8 very, very good teams, yes.
And
with a chance to win.
I think it's great now that, Paige Beckers and all of that, she's an unbelievable player. And Gino is the greatest to ever do it. No one's ever going to touch what he's done at UConn. But I think it shows the sport's growth that I don't think it's a coincidence that UConn going 9 years in between titles is when the women's basketball has been the best it's ever been.
Right.
I don't think that's a coincidence. And I'm not trying to be anti-UConn, but watching them parade through and beat Tulsa, and remember when they were in the AAC? It was a joke. They were winning every game like 100 to 30. Right. I mean, come on. It's not fun for anybody. It's certainly not fun as a fan and as a viewer. And now women's college basketball is amazing. And this was a great tournament. The championship game was a dud, but this was a great tournament too, and a great season. And it's been a great couple of seasons. So congratulations to UConn for that. Congrats as well to the latest Basketball Hall of Fame class. This is a loaded class. Did you see?
Vince Carter?
No, that was last year.
Carmelo Anthony, yeah.
Dwight Howard, Maya Moore, Sue Bird, Sylvia Fowles, part of that too. I think this might be the best class since in 2020 they had Kobe, Duncan, Tamika, and KG. I mean,
Do you think Dwight Howard's a Hall of Famer?
No brainer, 10,000% a Hall of Famer. Yeah, easily. Dwight Howard, for a large portion of his career, was a top 10 player and a top 5 player for a chunk of that.
Okay. Is that a Hall of Famer?
Is Tim Hardaway a Hall of Famer?
Well, I think the NBA, the basketball, I'm asking it kind of
Maurice
rhetorically.
Cheeks a Hall of Famer?
What I'm saying is this. It illuminates the fact that I think basketball of the three has the least criteria to get into the Hall of Fame.
Is Michael Cooper a Hall of Famer?
In the NBA, I get it. What I'm saying is these guys are all Harold Baines to me. And in baseball, Harold Baines, it is, people are like, they're up in arms that Harold Baines is in.
Look, I know people don't like Dwight Howard, and obviously the exit at Orlando was rough.
Derek, all I'm saying is this. Dwight Howard was a fabulous player. There's no question about it. To me, the Hall of Famer means you were undoubtedly the best at your position for the majority of your career, and you were widely seen as a player that was a necessary piece for a championship. He was a good player.
Mitch Richmond?
Again, you're making my point.
Sorry, I said James like my son.
What I'm saying is in the Basketball Hall of Fame, by basketball standards, you're correct. These guys are all Hall of Famers.
But you're arguing that Dwight Howard was not an elite player, and I'm telling you that he was.
I'm not saying he wasn't an elite player. I'm saying that I believe the criteria for the Basketball Hall of Fame is the least selective of the three major pro sports.
I can't really disagree. I think baseball's gotten a lot less selective.
I'll put it to you this way. Dwight Howard was what NFL quarterback? Randall Cunningham?
No. Man, I got to think on that. It's hard because there weren't a lot of great centers when Dwight Howard was the best center in the league, because we were transitioning out of the Ewing, Olajuwon, Robinson, Shaq kind of era. But he was the best center in the league for 7 years probably. Okay. He was the defensive player of the year 3 times. He led the league in rebounding 5 times, blocks leader twice, 8-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA. I mean, to me, Dwight Howard is several magnitudes better than some of the recent inductees. If I'm using somebody that if the Basketball Hall of Fame is watered down, I'm not using Dwight Howard.
Understood. I'm just saying, he's the latest example to me of I think he was a very good player. All I'm saying is this, and it's an unfair parallel perhaps to make, but by the standard of the other 2 major leagues in the United States, he is a much longer conversation than he is in basketball about being a Hall of Famer. I think I'm trying to think of a quarterback that I would put him on par with,
Well, it would have to be the guy that didn't win a championship.
Warren Moon. And Warren Moon might actually be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he is. Warren Moon was
great. If you consider Warren Moon's Canadian League, that's probably why.
I mean, I think
Randall Cunningham.
That might actually work. Warren Moon might actually work. But Randall Cunningham was far more of a flash in the pan. Howard had 8 seasons All-Star. Yeah, Phillip Rivers, but
okay, Rivers.
But
that's a
Rivers,
good one. That's a good one.
Rivers didn't hit but I think Rivers is a Hall of Famer. But Rivers didn't quite hit the peak. Let me look here. Dwight Howard.
I think a little bit, Derek, and I'm not. What year did Howard enter the league?
2004. He was the year after. He was the pick after LeBron.
How old were you?
21.
I think there's a little bit of that also eschews you a little bit.
But I think sometimes the age eschews you too, because it's
does.
Not your era
it
either.
Does. But right, and what I'm saying is if Dwight Howard has the exact same career, if a player has Dwight Howard's career right now between the ages of when you are 35 and 50, I'll bet you will be much more.
I mean, and look, he was a great playoff performer, and he was remembered for that. But if you look at accolade accumulation and you go through their resume of all NBA teams and MVP voting and defensive team and all-around player, Howard has a much better collection than Reggie Miller does.
Different positions, though. I mean, that's like saying
it is different positions.
But that's like comparing. That's like saying, well, Johnny Bench, had far greater impact than Mariano Rivera. I mean, they're totally different positions.
Howard finished 5th, 4th, 2nd, and 7th at the peak of his career in MVP voting. So he was unquestionably a top 5 or 6 player in the league for 5 different seasons.
Okay.
If we're just going on MVP voting, I mean, there are a lot of guys in the league in the Hall of Fame that did not even get in the top 10 of MVP.
Again, I'm simply saying, I'm using it as, by basketball standards, you're correct. I believe a Hall of Fame, more often than not, should be when a little kid's looking at the plaque of a player, their dad can say to them, he was undoubtedly the best player at his position or his game for the majority of his career.
Or did you go to see him? Did you stop what you were doing to buy a ticket to the game because you're like, I'm going to see blank
Correct.
tonight? And there are a lot of guys that you wouldn't. I mean, no one bought a ticket to say, I'm going to go see Tim Hardaway tonight.
Did anybody do that for Dwight Howard?
I mean, maybe not, but again, that's subjective, right? That's
fair.
That's just on vibes where I like to just kind of look at, give me data points. And I think Howard clears the bar fairly easily. I think it was a surprise when he wasn't on the top 75 player list.
I don't remember him being, maybe maybe I just was asleep. I don't remember him being a transcendent basketball superstar. I don't ever remember seeing him on commercials, and my mom has no idea who the guy is. And I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, but I'm saying he was not to me, it was not I don't remember hearing ads like, come see Dwight Howard in the Orlando. I mean,
I would just I've always been one to weigh peaks over longevity. I like, if you were good for a long time, I don't think that's as good as being great for a short time. But that's my Don Mattingly background, because Don Mattingly was an elite player, but it was too short of a window for him to be a Hall of Fame player, right? Let's get to the last quick hitter. Drew Pine. Do you remember Drew Pine? Played at Notre Dame, quarterback. He's actually from Connecticut. New Canaan kid. Rich
don't
kid.
Remember him.
He started Marcus Freeman's first year. So he was like Notre Dame's third string guy, but then Tyler Buckner got hurt and had a decent year. He was 8-2 as a starter. He's going to Bowling Green, where Eddie George is the new head coach.
I saw this. He's gone like in reverse order here, right?
So he went from Notre Dame to Arizona State to Missouri to now Bowling Green.
So this is like the Eddie Cheever career, like Formula One to IndyCar.
He graduated high school in 2020. So his first season was 2020. He played games in the 2020 season for Notre Dame. He still has 2 years of eligibility left. He's 24.
Let's go.
So he has the COVID year, and he had a red shirt because he didn't reach the standard or whatever of the medical red shirt year. So he will conceivably have played in 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 7 different college football seasons. Conceivably. I mean, we're really blurring the lines here.
It is getting a little bit.
We're blurring the lines. Yeah. We come back on the show. Sorry, we went way too long. I love Hall of Fame debates. It's one of my favorite things that still exist in sports because I think you can have just kind of a good back and forth type argument. Chateau Kitchen's Bader Bobleep, and we'll tie a bow on this thing. It's Corey and Schultz, episode 231 on ISC.
Hey, AC, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for a final time here on Corey Schultz, ISC Sports Network. I got a phone call last week. Actually, I think I saw Jordan last week. I was walking up West Street, which normally people don't do, so you stick out like a sore thumb when you're walking up West Street. We had a Purdue event at the Historical Society. I'd never been in that building in my life.
Great.
It's beautiful.
It's where Dave's first wedding reception.
It was a beautiful space. And I'm in like the least comfortable suits ever. The backs of my Achilles are all like torn up, and I'm tromping up West Street. And I have a friend call me that said that he was listening to you on the radio show, a good friend, actually a mutual friend of ours. And you were talking about the IMS museum, which you still have not been into, or did you go into?
I have not been yet.
And he said, "Hey, like, what's the deal? Like, Jake keeps saying, calling it a museum. Are you a museum guy instead of museum?"
I've never. People get on me about this all the time.
Yeah, about that word?
It's just, whatever reason, it's a word that I have a museum.
Okay. Are you a museum? I mean,
I realize technically it's museum, right?
I'm a scenario guy instead of scenario.
I'm not saying that I say it correct. I'm just saying I've always it's a mental like a speech impediment of mine. I don't know. The other one that I have always said that I've never understood. When I was a kid, forever I said motorcycle.
Oh, that's Indiana. Yeah, that's a very Indiana thing.
I don't think that's even Indiana. I think it's. I've never heard anybody. I mean,
I never heard motorcycle until I came out here.
I don't know that I've ever heard anybody else say it, but somebody finally said to me, "Why are you saying motorcycle?" And I said, "I don't know, because it's a motorized bicycle."
Yeah.
You don't say bicycle, right?
That's true.
So
motorcycle to me is in the same group as Washington.
Okay, I mean that may be.
That's how I've always thought of it.
When it comes to a place like what you're talking about, I realize that phonetically it is museum. But I just have always said museum, the Children's Museum.
Just something I want to clarify. And I know, we get listener submissions all the time. Hey, Jake is saying this weird. Like, one of us speaks a little more weirder than others when it comes to this stuff. So that's just another one of those
you would
cases.
say one of us speaks a little more weird.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say weirder.
Okay, museum.
A little more weirder.
Mr. Museum.
I'd like to know who pointed this out to you.
I would say you want to guess because that's your favorite game where you're every time I pick up the phone and it's a call from Jake. Hey, buddy, I miss you, whatever. We get the pleasantries out of the way, and then it's, hey, you want to guess, blah, blah, blah?
Okay.
It's like, just
Greg
tell me.
Poley.
Just tell me. No.
I don't know how many mutual friends we have. Rake.
I'm not going to, I'm sworn to secrecy.
Larry Kramer.
No, it's not Larry. I am sworn to secrecy.
I think we're out of mutual friends.
We have a ton of mutual friends. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Yeah. We have so many. Doug, your cousin?
Okay.
Time for Bider Bobley. Chateau Kitchens is the logo.
Doug likes me.
Are we going way long on the show today? This is going to be like an hour 20, this show. At Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures. In-home transformations. That's what Chateau Kitchens is in the business of doing. And they've transformed my home. They can do the same for you. Call Steven and his crew or head to chateaukitchens.com to get your project off the ground. With Bider Bobley, I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we buy it or it's Bull Bleep. The Masters is an overrated dude bro event. Buy it or Bull Bleep? I got a feeling I know what Jake's going to say. You've been hanging with Kevin Bowen, though.
I like the Masters a great deal, but there's a small group of people who have put it into that category.
Yeah.
So at its core, it is not, but there is a small group that could take it.
I mean, I just attended a Dude Bro event. The Phoenix Open, the Great Western Open, the Waste Management Open, whatever they're calling it now. Like, that's the ultimate, mashed potatoes and let's get hammered on the 16th, hole and all of that. There's still something that's pure and good and wholesome about the Masters in the sense that it is the sporting event more so than the start of baseball season, I think, because baseball doesn't have a true opening day anymore, that makes you think of spring and the flowers are blooming and the piano and Jim Nance. There are a lot of happy memories that come, even if you're not a golf fan, if you're just a sports fan. So I'm going to say no because I enjoy the Masters for the elements that I enjoy from it. So I don't care if some guy in really tight pants and, that swings a $1,500 driver, it's not going to ruin it for me.
Right. Fair enough.
So that's where I would go with that. Florida has now passed Indiana as a better all-time college basketball program. Buy it or Bull Bleep?
Bullshit. I mean, you said all time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Bullshit.
I mean, Indiana's had 30 years. I mean, Indiana's all-time is 1940 to 87, which sounds like it's a long time, but that's 47 years. We're creeping up on 30 now since Indiana's been anything.
Okay. Indiana had the first African-American in the Big Ten. Indiana had multiple national championships before Bob Knight arrived. Indiana's the last school to have an undefeated season. Indiana's had one of the great point guards of all time playing. Who's Florida's best all-time pro?
I do think that it's more of a discussion than not. I'll still say Indiana if you're taking the whole body of work. Yeah, I think Indiana's still a better program.
In current day, is it more currently relevant?
I don't think it's outlandish to say that. I mean, UConn has already passed them based on 30 years. UConn is a better program than Indiana.
But again, right now there's no question. But when you're talking about all time, I don't agree with that. I mean, it's like saying who has who is a better all-time baseball history, the Athletics or the Braves? Or the Athletics or the Marlins? How about that? The
well,
Athletics
yeah,
Marlins.
I mean, but yeah, Florida's had a little more sustained success than the Marlins with two kind of flash in the pants. I get what you're saying. Look, I still think it's Indiana. I'm not insulted by that question.
Okay.
I mean, if Florida wins another one in the next 5 years, they're
think,
suddenly up to 4.
Florida certainly has a claim. I think Florida's
probably a top 15 program at this point.
But when you when you use the term all-time history, it has to be over multiple eras and lifespans. Indiana has them in multiple people's lifespans. Carolina, Kentucky, Duke, they have it, not even Duke yet, but they have it in multiple people's lifespans. My grandpa knew when they were great. My dad knew when they were great. My kids are going to see them when they're great. For Florida, it's like, yeah, I mean, the last 20 years, right?
Well, I mean, they went to a Final Four in 94, so probably the last 30, I'd say. And they had some good teams in the 90s.
But
Mike Miller, Teddy Duke. They went to the title game in 2000.
Understood, but again, it's relatively one era.
Yeah, no, I agree that it's Indiana. I just don't think that question is outlandish.
Who's a better all-time NBA tradition, the New York Knicks or the Miami Heat?
I mean, the Knicks probably have a better. Well,
I don't know.
How
can you say that?
LeBron,
How can you say that?
Wade,
the Heat have won multiple championships.
Well, I'm trying to think of
Hall
Hall of Famers, total Hall of Famers. The Knicks, but they didn't come into the league.
It doesn't matter. Okay, the Miami Heat is Florida. And the Knicks are Indiana.
And the Heat have won 3, which is more than the Knicks have won.
Right, but the Knicks still, when you have, Clyde Frazier and
Dave DeBusschere
and
Bill Bradley
and
Bernard
the Garden
King
and the Spike Lee, it goes.
It's fair.
Multiple way
again,
back.
I don't think that it's an outlandish question, and I think it just shows where Indiana has been. I mean, we still think of Indiana on that tier and in that blue blood, but you're talking about, well, it's recent success.
Derek,
well,
but again, I'm going to go back to this. If you had said the question, Bide or Bullschultz, Florida is now a better basketball program than Indiana. Yeah, probably. But when you say Florida is a better all-time basketball program, no, advantage Indiana.
My point, though, is that 1990, which is basically where UConn's history starts, to you and me, 1990 doesn't feel like that long ago, right? But it's 35 years ago.
I get it.
It's 35 years, and
so imagine how long ago 1940 was.
That's a long span. Well, but I mean, the hard cutoff isn't 87 for Indiana, right? It's more like 93, 94, mid 90s. So
you said all time.
So Indiana's relevance went more than a half century. I mean, 55 years Indiana was a blue blood. Last 30 years they've not been, but 55 years. That's a long sample to fight against. So I agree with you at the end of the day. We've had some good debates on the show today. Thanks to our great sponsors, Chateau Kitchens, right behind us. www.chateaukitchens.com. Does anybody do www anymore? Probably not. Winterstreakmilk.com. How about that? And our friends at American Dairy Association of Indiana, 6 weeks away. I heard parking's already sold out for the 500. Did you hear that?
Yes.
That's crazy.
It is.
It's never been sold out this early. Maybe for the 100th running.
Yeah.
But it never sells out in April. That's insane. Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water Brewing. And, of course, Bailey & Wood Financial Group, the presenting sponsors of this show. For Vince and Rake, I'm sorry, guys. This was a long show today. I'm Derek. He's Jake.
Come on, man.
Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Hour 20. Wow.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
At Bailey